I have a big announcement today. I'm going to tell you which candidate I endorse for Prime Minister.
Today, I am announcing my plan to cut home building taxes by $100,000 per home. My government will also require municipalities to publicly report their development charges and explain.
So, as you may have seen in my previous video, we looked at the Liberals. Now we're looking at the Conservative Party. I'm not going to bother with the other parties. So let's see what's going on with Pierre Poilievre.
Today, I am announcing my plan to cut home building taxes by $100,000 per home so that Canadians can save money when they buy. I'll do this by, 1, incentivizing municipalities to cut building taxes, and 2, by eliminating the federal sales tax on new homes. Each of those measures will save up to $50 grand on the cost of a single home. That's a total of $100,000. In fact, the GST elimination will be even more powerful in big centres like the GTA and the Greater Vancouver area, because there housing is more expensive, and therefore the value of that tax cut will be as much as $65,000 alone, on top of the new tax cuts that I'm announcing today through these municipal incentives. My government will also require municipalities to publicly report their development charges and explain how the federal reimbursement will be used so Canadian municipalities are accountable when they reduce these fees. C'est pourquoi aujourd'hui.
Okay. I think I love this policy. So we're talking about full GST rebate on every home under $1.3 million. That is extremely useful, extremely quick, and extremely easy to implement. On top of that, he's talking about giving a dollar-for-dollar rebate up to 100 grand with the municipality. So that means the feds are going to kick in 50 and the municipality or province will kick in 50 on lowering DCs. This is incredible because, as we've said in many of our videos along the way, the biggest challenge we face here in housing costs is actually the government taxes on each home. The fastest way to reduce housing costs is definitely lower those taxes. And what's good about this is you don't have to hire a bunch of people to reduce taxes. You can just do it and implement it and change policy. So I love it. It's quick. It's just what we need to get our housing market fired up again and get people off the sidelines. I guarantee if you're looking for a house, you better be voting for the Conservative Party on this one. This is a great policy. This is quick. It's easy. Can't comment any more on that.
Allowed taxes and development charges to spiral out of control, making the cost of housing even more expensive. Today, in Ontario, 30% of the cost of a new home is just direct government taxes. Sales tax, land transfer tax, development taxes. On top of that, there are thousands of dollars of soft costs like delays, zoning, consultants, lobbyists, lawyers, and countless other fees. More money from a new home today built in Canada goes to bureaucrats in office buildings than goes to the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers that actually build the homes. Here in Toronto, development charges or building taxes have gone from $30,000 to $140,000. Across Canada, development charges are up $27,000 in the last 2 years. These government costs are passed on to home buyers, turning the dream of home ownership into a nightmare. Instead of challenging these city gatekeepers who jack up development charges, the Liberals have rewarded them. Take the City of Toronto. The Liberals gave the City of Toronto $471 million as a reward for having increased their development charges by 42%. What is the consequence of this for everyday Canadians? Construction is down 39% this year in Toronto. In Victoria and Ottawa, it's the same story. More federal money to reward municipal politicians who've jacked up home building costs. They both raised their fees by 21 and 55% both raised their fees, and resulting reductions in home building have been 21% in Ottawa and 55% in Victoria. Now, Mark Carney has publicly committed to continuing with these same policies. His present-day Liberal housing minister says that the federal government will keep giving money to municipalities who raise home building taxes. Mr. Carney has also brought in the same housing minister that gave us the worst housing costs in the history of Canada, Sean Fraser. The same Liberal MPs, same Liberal ministers, same Liberal policies, same Liberal promises that doubled housing costs. We can't double down on doubling costs. It's even the words. Mark Carney is famous for plagiarizing. Of course, he plagiarized his way through university. He's now plagiarizing Justin Trudeau. Trudeau said in 2017, we are getting the federal government back into the business of housing. Well, this week, Mark Carney said, we're getting government back in the business of building affordable homes. So it's almost a precise plagiarization of his protege. But the point is, nothing is changing. It's the same Liberal promise. The only difference is now Mr. Carney is promising a $35 billion modular home program. Well, it turns out that Brookfield is invested in modular homes. So he's got another conflict of interest that will be good for him, good for bureaucrats, but won't build any houses for Canadians. So Carney has no plan to get a single house built. He has a plan to build more Liberal bureaucracy and to profit his own company. We don't need to build bureaucracy. In Ottawa, we need to build houses in our communities. We've lived through these last 10 years of repeated promises. We should never have believed them, and we should definitely not believe them now. As I said, 3 strikes, you're out. They've had 3 terms, and a 4th will only make.
Well, I think the point there, I guess, although it's not a new policy, it's pointing out that, as we indicated in our last video, that a lot of the Liberal policies are actually existing policies and require more bureaucracy to implement. And I think, as a person who has been in the housing business for 35 years, I can't agree more that there's been nothing but more bureaucracy, more red tape, slower development times than ever before, which is essentially making things, very difficult to finance, and that's what we do. And we can't finance things that take forever because we're afraid that our builders are going to go bankrupt. So if we want to actually stabilize our system, even just from a finance point of view, it would be better if things were moving quicker. Not to mention, everything he said is true. This bureaucracy costs money. Time is money, and trying to come up with a system that adds more cost, more change, which is really the same thing when you're going to have get rid of CMAC and build a new entity to do what CMAC already did. Again, I don't know, that takes time. So what I like about what Carney's doing, or what Carney is doing, is that he's got positive, says the right stuff, but it's just a new wrapper on the old stuff. So good to see that they're like-minded, but Poilievre is going to be effective, quick, and less costly to Canadians. Bottom line, this is going to be a much more effective strategy for getting stuff done quickly, because the private sector is much more efficient than the government sector. And if you want the government to try and run your life and you think he's going to save you, it's just not going to be the case, because it hasn't been the case. It's the same people running everything, and that's not going to change anything. If you keep asking, if you keep kind of going through the same solutions, expecting a different answer, and the same people asking the same questions, you're not going to get a different answer. It's going to be the same answer. So I believe Poilievre has got some good points here.
Put homeowners first for a change. We will restore the promise of home ownership. We will remove the bureaucracy to make it happen. Cut the taxes by $100,000 a home. Incentivize the municipalities to speed up their permits. Sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. Train up 350,000 brilliant young tradespeople with powerful apprenticeship programs. When they graduate, we'll cut their income tax by 15%, so they bring home more of their paycheck. You guys work hard. You should bring home more of your paycheck, and I'll be cutting your taxes when I'm Prime Minister so that your work finally pays off. We'll repeal the Liberal No New Pipelines and No New Development Law, C-69, so we can build things again in Canada. We will bring safety to our streets. By the way, I gather that Mark Carney is now talking about crime. This after Liberals unleashed a massive crime spree in our country with their catch and release criminal justice policy. Catch and release, C-75, allows repeat offenders out of jail within minutes of their latest arrest.
Well, I think Poilievre is going on about all of the policies that they're talking about, which I'm going to try and restrict things to housing and taxes. The other thing that came out in this is that, giving tradespeople a break on their taxes as they come out of school. I think that's brilliant. The other thing that I think is brilliant is that, reinvesting capital gains into Canadian companies and projects, which I'm certain all of our builders and developers do, is brilliant. Allowing lands to be purchased from the federal government, again, that reduces our deficit and releases lands that otherwise should be available for development, is amazing. So this is quick. This will cause investment in Canada. Reducing capital gains tax, allowing you to reinvest your money without having to pay the capital gains will cause people to keep investing. That's good. Reducing tradespeople's tax will give people an incentive to have a trade. So I think this is also good. Just speaking a little bit about crime, the catch and release program, firsthand, I've talked to people, I've talked to judges. It's real. They really just do catch and release. I had my car stolen out of my house twice in one night. So they couldn't get in. They broke in, while I was at home. So this is a common story throughout Toronto, and so I think we need to feel safe. I think we need to feel like our economy's safe, and we need to get out of our own way. And I think Carney is not really giving us that change. He wants to stay in our way. He wants to do it for us. And yeah, I get it. He's smart. He went to Oxford, he went to Harvard, and I think we all want to believe that someone's going to solve our problems. Well, no one's going to solve our problems. We got to solve our own problems. That's just not realistic. So we have to give our heads a shake. We have to wake up. We need a change. We need to move on. So I am officially endorsing Pierre Poilievre for Prime Minister. He puts the power back to the people who have the power to do things. We can use our own brains. We don't need the government telling us how to run our companies and taxing us so that we have no incentive to want to run our own companies. We take tons of risk. And believe me, as an entrepreneur, I feel the stress of that risk every single day. And I deal with other entrepreneurs every single day. And we're here for our employees. We're here for homeowners. And we want to do stuff. We want to do the best we can possibly do. Heck, I work for the government. I understand what they want to do. I love working there. I love working at CMHC. But this is not the way to run. More government, more bureaucracy, more politics is not the way to run a company, and that's not the way we should run our economy. And I believe we have to look beyond all the circumstances of this tariff, because that's just all noise. That's obviously going to clear. That's a moment in time. We need to actually have a better country. That'll address our problems with the tariffs. Anyway, that's it for me.